It was a big day for Indian chess and also for the 17-year-old Praggnanandhaa as he beat Ding Liren at the fourth round of the Tata Steel Masters 2022. Now, Praggnanandhaa has beaten Magnus Carlsen, has beaten many strong players, but all of that was in rapid format or in blitz events and online events and so on. Never had he beaten a top 10 player in the world in classical chess. In fact, some of the research that I did uh, revealed that the highest rated player that he has beaten is Vidit with the rating of 2727, then Esipenko, Elyanov, Hovel. But maybe I'm missing some players there, but I think that is the list. So he hadn't beaten anyone in top 10, leave alone the fact a 2800 rated player, and Ding Liren's rating was 2811 in this game. So let's get cracking. Pragg is playing with the black pieces, Ding is white. Game opens with 1 e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. We have the Italian on the board. Castles, knight f6, d3, d6, c3. And now here Magnus has played many times the move a5 and a lot of players as well, just stopping b4 and queenside play for white. But Pragg went for the sort of classical setup with a6, rook e1, and now he put his bishop back to a7. There's an important move that you should be knowing, that in this position you cannot win this bishop on c4 because of a very strong move for white. Try to think, what should white play? Yes, the move is b4, knight takes c4 and b takes c5, and here white is better, clearly better. So bishop a7, and now the threat is to play knight a5 and win this bishop. So either you go bishop b3 or you play a4 like Ding did in the game. And now Pragg castled. He went h3. Just to share with you guys, I saw a very interesting variation here while analyzing this game. So the variation goes bishop g5, which is always very irritating, right? h6, bishop h4, and I was thinking how to deal with it. G5. And bishop g3, you can, have many ways to play. One is knight h7, move the knight away. But if you take here, and bishop takes, it's good to know what is the best way to defend as black. The best way is king g7 and rook h8. But here I spotted a very interesting variation which I wanted to share with you, which is you start with bishop g4. The second best move after king g7. And naturally, opponent wants to take on f6 because now the bishop is hanging. If you take on d1, I take on d8, I'm piece up. What's the move that black plays here? Try to think. Yeah, the move here is bishop f2 check. It's a very nice move. If king takes here, then queen takes f6, comes with a check, and you win the queen. And king f1 is forced. Bishop d1, bishop d8, bishop e1, king e1, rook d8, king d1, and king g7. Black is better and fighting for the full point. So just something which was unusual and I wanted to share. Anyway, Ding played h3. Pragg could have gone h6 now, but he went bishop e6. Take on e6, fe6, and now the rook opens up. So it's a trade-off. For slightly bad pawn structure, you get an open rook file. And now after bishop e3, Pragg took. And there have been 24 games in this position. All of them went rook takes e3. That's a standard move. But Ding here thought for less than a minute and played fe3. And I was a bit surprised with this decision, especially when you have a rook on e1. You don't take with f pawn. But it does solidify his structure in the center. And the engines are also okay. So Ding must have prepared this slightly offbeat. Now Pragg said it's important to stop white from gaining space on the queen side, and he played the move a5, knight d2, queen d7, queen came to b3 attacking here and here. So b6, rook d1, king h8, queen went to b5, and Pragg offered a queen trade. Takes, and here at this point I would tell you I was expecting the game to end in a draw. d4, knight f7, and of course Ding would never want to take here because then he's left with a horrible structure with these two double pawns. So it's with this structure here, he played king f2. It's all about who's going to blink first. Would black take, that white takes and improves his structure, or will white take and then black improves his structure? Knight g5, king e2, knight f3. And once again, an important moment in the game, I thought that Ding would play gf3 here. And with this, his structure becomes even more solid. Yes, the h3 pawn is alone, lonely, and not so happy. But on the other hand, look at these pawns. It's amazing. And knight c4 coming in, putting pressure on the center. But he took with the knight. And he's putting more pressure here on e5, forcing Pragg to take. Now, Pragg could have taken, but Pragg is smart and he said, I'm going knight f6. So if you take here, I will take on e4. If you take here, I'll take here. If you try to attack me, I will solidify my knight with d5, and black is doing well. Okay, understood. So Ding went back, knight d2, and now Ding may be thinking of d5, but not so sure. So Pragg here improved his position with king g8. I like this move. It's like king h8 to g8 does not improve your position, like does not do anything concretely better, but in many lines later, it will be helpful to have your king on g8. Now, of course, d can be played with these 4 pawns in one line, but I think black is not worse here. It's completely fine. We played rook f1, and Pragg here got his rook to e8. Rook f3, and he brought his other rook to d8. Here, g4 was played, and now it's black to play. What would you do? I like this next move a lot by Pragg. Pragg played the move d5, and this just shows very good understanding. I think at this point, black has equalized very well, and white has to be very careful not to slide into a bad position. Ding here played move rook f1, which was not the best. Okay, let's look at a few lines. First, d5. What would you play here as black? Black to play. The natural idea is to take on e4, take on e4, take on e4, and play rook f4. I think white is better here. The Pragg actually had the idea of knight d7, and kudos if you found this move, because after this, rook f4, knight e5, knight f3, knight g6 traps the rook. Basically, what I was trying to say is that knight d7, even if you were to take ed5, there is knight e5, rook f4, and then ed5, and black is the one who's clearly better here with the e3 pawn weakness. So de5 is bad. g5 was definitely possible, and I think worthy of consideration. Maybe Pragg would have gone knight e4 here. I'm not so sure. Take, take, take. And we reach this position where Pragg can go back. But he's pawn up. His structure is not great, but he's pawn up. It should be equal. The other idea is instead of to g5, he can also go knight d7. Just put his knight there, and this should also be equal. Rook f1 was not great, and now Pragg took, and he took here on e4. He could have also played e5, which looked like a tempting alternative, but he took here, g5, knight to d5, knight e4, and now what should black play? This is an easy move, e5. Fantastic. Now Ding is in serious trouble because Pragg is threatening ed and attacking the knight. If you take here, then after d rook e5, this is problem. Everything's trouble. So Ding has to find the best move here. What should white play? And he came up with the best move. Of course, it's not so easy to beat the world number 2. Yeah, he played the move rook f5. Fantastic move. And with this, his main point is that after take, you have no time to hit the rook with c5 because your own knight is hanging on d5. So ed rook d4, the main point was to put pressure here. Okay, so knight b4 was played. DE, takes, and knight D3. Pragg is now attacking B2 and E5. King came here, he took on E5, and if you just take stock of this position, you will realize that 5 pawns for both sides, but the number of weaknesses that white has are many. You can say A3, E3 is weak, G5 is slightly weak, H3 could become a weakness, A4 as well, and black is in general very solid. His pawns are not so weak, maybe C7, but apart from that, everything looks good. So you can't say this is a big advantage, and generally when it's games with a player like Ding, these positions tend to end in draws. But it's amazing how Praggnanandhaa managed to win this. So let's follow the game. Knight d2, rook e6 was played. I think he wanted to go rook c6 check, rook f4, he gave a check, king d1, knight d3, rook d4 check, king here, check, king here, and now he got his king out to f7. At this point, actually, it was an important moment for Ding, and he had to find a very accurate sequence, and because this was the 40th move, he faltered. That's how time pressure often plays role in classical chess. If he had more time, he would have played rook c4. It's a very dangerous and difficult move to play, because after take king g6, it feels like white is faster, but after knight f3, king f5, king b5, king e4, knight d4, king takes e3, knight e6, white is able to hold this position. So that's a very key variation. But he went knight c4, and this gave Pragg very good chances. It was the last move before time control. What should black play now? Black to play. Yes, Pragg went king g6 and he attacked g5. Ding defended it. King h5. Knight e5 was played. Now again, the ball is in your court. Black to play. This was another important move, and Pragg played a beautiful move here. Black to play. Rook e1. Very important move. Because imagine that if you go here trying to win the h4 pawn, then rook d7 is just very active for black, for white. So that's the reason why rook e1. Now rook e3 is a big threat, so you have to defend it. Then you go rook h1, so that there's no rook d7. So very subtle play. Knight d7, he took the pawn, rook here. And here once again it was a key moment, because Ding is creating play. He's trying to attack this pawn. You can no longer defend it, like king g6 is met with knight f8 check. So what would you do here as black is a natural question. Pragg went and ahead and tipped this pawn. But a very good move here would have been g6. Because if rook takes h7, then king takes g5. Black is fine. And he's clearly better. And if knight f6 check, I take, check, king f5. Again, black is doing very well. So g6 would have been a better choice, but instead he took on g5, rook g7, king h6, rook e7, king g5. And now I was expecting Ding to go rook g7 check again. I mean, why not repeat? I think Pragg, when he went king h6, he was expecting something else here, but then he realized that there's nothing, so he repeated. And I'm sure that if he had given this check, he would have gone king f5, check. And this is an important moment, king e4. Here, if you go and take this pawn, you are just lost, because after take, check, take, king d3, my idea is c5, c4, and white is just busted here. The game is over. So that is impossible to take this pawn on h7. Maybe what you could do here is play knight f6, king e3, rook e7, check. By the way, here if you take knight h7, c5 is very powerful again. Rook e7, king d4. The game goes on. It's still, there's some fight. after king g5, Ding did not play rook g7. He instead went knight f8. And Pragg went h5. Ding checked first. King f5. He gave another check. King e4. And now he went and picked this pawn. Because if you give another check, I am going king f3. I believe the best move here was knight g6. But again, it's so difficult to assess all these little moves. Check. Now you can't go king f3 because of check. So you have to go back. Check. And white has decent chances. I mean, black is clearly better. Oh, but game goes on. Here he took on c7. Pragg took on e3. Knight g6. And this is where I think Pragg could have played slightly better here. He went rook d4. I think a very good move would have been rook e4. The main tactical point is that after rook h7, you need to get your rook there. King d4 is powerful. And if you take here, this is checkmate. So you cannot take there. You have to go check again. And then after knight d5, black is in control. But after rook d4, rook h7, suddenly white starts to get some defensive setup going. Check here. Rook d5, defending the pawn. Check king f2. Rook b7. He defended it. And now a very important moment had arisen. Here, Ding went knight f4, but he could have played rook f7 check. And the key point is that after king g3, you have knight f4 attacking h5 with the check. So h4 if played, knight e2 check. Check. Rook g7. And it's almost close to a draw now. If you go h3, there is rook h7. And otherwise, it's not so easy to win. So this rook f7 check was very important. Perhaps Pragg could keep it going some way, but yeah, this king, cutting the king off here would have been useful, because when he went knight f4, h4, rook here, the king is quite on the other side, and after king f3, black king is very active. Knight h3, now knight c6, interesting move. Knight g5, king f4, they repeated once to gain some time. 60 moves were done. And now after check, Pragg went king e3. Knight h3. Perhaps king b5 had to be considered here. It was a playable alternative. And I think here it's starting to get a little bit difficult for black, because the white king has gotten active. He went knight h3. Knight d4. Rook here. And check. King d5 only move. Check. King d6 only move. Check. King d7. And king f3. So Pragg played really well. If you give a check, then king g3 wins. Rook g6 was played. And now he gave a check on d5. I think here a very nice move was rook c4. Because if you take here, I go king g2. Now you don't have knight f4. You don't have knight f2. You don't have knight g1. So you have to go knight g5, rook g4, and now h3, h2. That's very powerful. So rook g6. Rook d5, he should have gone rook c4, but he went rook d5. King c7. And here, I think this was the best defense. Game could have continued b5. And after, let's say, ab, rook b5. Again, excellent winning chances for black. But with more pawns getting traded, white does have some defensive chances still. But I think this was the final mistake with king e6. And when Pragg went knight e3, it was all but over. Knight g1, king e4. Notice how the pieces are coordinating so well. The knight here stops rook g4 check. And after rook d4, which was a very classy move. The point is that after b3, rook b4, the rook defends b6, b6 defends a5, the rook will also defend h4, and slowly all the pawns will fall. So in this position, I think after rook f6, king d3, Pragg won the game. Ding resigned, and that was a big result for the little boy, little one, Praggnanandhaa. And I must say it was a big moment for us as well at ChessBase India, because we were commentating on 17th, and by the time this game ended, it was already 18th. It was 18th of January is our 7th anniversary in 2023. And while we were commentating, like roughly 1:30 a.m. in the night, we had close to 4,000 people, 4,500 people watching. And were very special that this youngster managed to beat world number 2. So from, like, I was just checking, Pragg was 2166 when we began ChessBase India, and now he is 2692, and he beat world number 2. So fantastic there. And also a couple of pictures from Lennart Utes just to show you the vibe in the playing hall. That's Pragg watching the games there. This is Pragg versus Ding over the board, and that look of Pragg, which is so calm but so intense. It has both those facets in them. Very unique. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. I hope you like this video. Bye bye.